All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Geekdom Q&A, where I answer your questions. Now, those of you who may have missed my 2,000 subscriber special, I am now going to be answering questions starting next week, hopefully, from the Ask FM. So go to ask.fm/geekdom101 and ask your question there. It's much easier to categorize and catalog there. This is going to be one of the longest Geekdom Q&As I've ever done because I have lots and lots of questions. I think like 10 questions. So let's go ahead and get right into it here. Let's start with Savage Saiyan. I got a question for your Q&A. This dude is trying to tell me that Goku is more badass than Piccolo or Vegeta. Can you look up the definition of badass and tell us if Piccolo and Vegeta fall into that category more than Goku? Let me do that right now. Badass definition. A tough, uncompromising, or intimidating person. Tough, uncompromising, or intimidating. Okay. Goku clearly lacks the mentality, and he just has some badass moments, but overall, as a character, he doesn't really seem like a badass because he's too kind-natured. In other words, are Piccolo and Vegeta more badass than Goku? I do agree, but remember, Piccolo and Vegeta did start out as evil characters and later became good. So the thing about fiction is whenever you have an anti-hero or somebody who's a villain and then becomes a hero, they're always going to be more badass or perceived as being more badass because they've still got that edge. Meanwhile, Goku is very kind-hearted, but you're definitely spot on in the comment you made about Goku having badass moments. He definitely does have a lot of really badass moments. So in some ways, he is a badass. I mean, he really is. But by the definition that was given here, and I think the definition you're looking for, I would say that Vegeta and Piccolo are probably more badass just because they were bad. So there you go. Moises wins. I have 2 questions. Maybe you can do a Q&A on this. I don't know. Well, you got the answer coming up, or I'll try to give it to you. Number 1, let's say Future Trunks was killed by Cell when Cell blasted him, coming back as Super Perfect against Gohan. I remember that. Do you think Trunks would be in the original DBZ's timeline's Heaven, Otherworld, or would he be in his timeline's Heaven, Otherworld? It's been bugging me out because it's a good argument for both. Yes, the bottom line is we don't know, but here's what I think. I think if Trunks, or when Trunks died in our timeline, he went to our version of Heaven/Hell/Otherworld. And I think what would have happened is, or what probably did happen, and this is just me speculating, is that King Yemma probably looked through his records and said, wait a minute, according to this, you're not dead. You're actually just a year old. What are you doing here? And maybe he might have screwed up the paperwork. So hypothetically, if Future Trunks never got brought back, there would be somebody on Earth, which is Baby Trunks, who would, in a sense, if he died, then King Yemma would be totally confused. So it's interesting to me that, that could be a little comedic thing they could have done. They didn't really go down that route and kind of make that into a gag. But I think, to answer your question, long story short, I think he would have died in our Otherworld. However, Dragon Ball never states whether or not everybody who dies in every timeline goes to the same Otherworld, because if so, wouldn't we have seen future Gohan, future Vegeta, all these other characters? I don't want to say it's a plot hole, it's just not really elaborated on, so all I can do is just say that, yeah, it's a different Otherworld per timeline. Number 2, and if Future Trunks, stayed in the original DBZ timeline instead of going back to his timeline, how much of an impact do you think he would have had post-Cell arc coming into the Buu Saga? That is a excellent question, and it might actually become an entire video one of these days. I'm thinking about it, but I think that if Trunks had stayed, I think it would have been a little weird because there would be 2 Trunks in the same timeline. He would have probably had to have stayed away from his own father and his mother, but at the same time, he probably couldn't have stayed because his true mother is the mother from the future. But hypothetically, let's just say that he went back to the future and then went back in time to just say hello and meet his dad. And let's say he continued the connection between the 2 timelines. just for the purposes of just socializing. I do think he would have been in the tournament. I do think he would have definitely been a factor, and I think he may have actually been smart enough to accomplish two things. Number one, he probably would have convinced his father not to have tried to convince his father not to have taken the Goku thing so personal. Majin Vegeta may have never happened if that were the case. Or it's also possible that Gohan would have a capable and strong training partner, and thus when you have a training partner that strong like Trunks, and I do think he would have unlocked SSJ2 just like the others. I do think he would have. But with Gohan having that training partner, he probably wouldn't have slacked off as much. I would think that if future Trunks stayed in the original timeline, well, technically his timeline is the original timeline, but I know what you mean, the one with the Buu Saga. I would like to think that Trunks would have kind of stayed with, Goku's family, Chi-Chi and Gohan. That's what I think would have happened. But that would be a fun, I wish that would have happened now. That would have been interesting, because I do miss that guy. I do miss future Trunks. I'm glad he came back in Xenoverse. Aaron Aranda. I hope I said your name right. You know how Toriyama Senpai simplified the power levels for SSJG, Goku, Beerus, and Whis, 6, 9, and 15. I believe it was 7, 10, and 15, but whatever. Think you can do the same for different incarnations of Majin Buu. Original Kid Buu with first Kai absorbed, then with two Kais absorbed, Buff Buu. Then after the absorption of the Fat Supreme Kai, this is where a lot of people get their jimmies rustled, I like that, in terms of if it was a power-up or a power-down, if that's where the magic side came from. Fat Buu after the split with Thin Buu himself, first Super Buu, and so on until we get to Kid Buu just before he gets killed. Throw in Oob as a bonus. I have my mind made up, but I would like to see what you think and how you reason this. This is a big project, man. This is definitely something for a video, and I am going to do a video. I don't know if it's going to be exactly what you're looking for as far as giving you the numbers, but I am going to do a video eventually on the different forms of Majin Buu. I just don't want to do one right now because there's a couple of good videos out there that are like that will help you out. But I want to do something a little bit different with mine. That's a tough one. I would have to think about it and really write it down. But let me think. All right, normally I don't do this because I am going to make this into a video, but I'm going to do this for you here, Aaron. This is my quick, and I did this pretty quickly here, my quick analysis of the Buu forms as far as power. Now, I'm going to be using a power scaling of 1 to 15, so this is not the same scaling that Toriyama used, so obviously I do have one of the Buus at 15. That's nowhere near Whis' power, but there's no way you can put that on a grid and have it make any sense. So we're just going to do 1 through 15, 1 being the weakest, 15 being the strongest, even though nobody here goes down to 1. But this is kind of how I see it. So the original Kid Buu is a 12. Kid Buu, after absorbing the first Kai, is a 13. Buff Buu with 2 Kais is a 14. Fat Buu with Fat Kai is down to an 11, all right? Because I feel that when he absorbed the Fat Buu, or the Fat Kai, what happened was the kind heart of the Fat Kai kind of consumed Buu, and I think that I don't want to say the spirit kind of changed him, but I would kind of want to say that yeah, he kind of became a little bit gentler, even though he was still dangerous. He definitely became a lot gentler during that absorption, and I think that he also lost a little bit of power. Not too much, but I think he did lose some power when he became the Fat Buu with the Fat Kai. Now, what I think is that the evil power of the original Kid Buu was repressed, and that was what manifested itself into Skinny Buu. So it is kind of confusing, but remember, the Buu stuff doesn't make any sense anyway. So, moving on. Fat Buu, after Skinny Buu has been ejected from his body, I think is down to a 6.5. Skinny Buu is also at a 6.5. However, Skinny Buu was a bit stronger. So really, if I were to tweak that, I would say that Fat Buu was a 6 and Skinny Buu was a 7. So let's go ahead and change that. Fat Buu is a 6, Skinny Buu is a 7, and therefore Super Buu is a 13. He's back to how he was after absorbing the first Kai. How that happened, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense anyways. And then after absorbing Gotenks and Piccolo became a 14, and then with Mystic Gohan became a 15. But in reality, it's higher than that. But I'm doing this very quickly off the top of my head, so I can't just scale this to perfection. I mean, again, this is going to need its own video because it's very complicated. And then Kid Buu again is down to 12. Let me know in the comment section what you think about that, because the Buu thing has never made any sense to me whatsoever, and I might have to get with some of the other tubers and kind of get their thoughts. I know there's a few videos about it, see if we can kind of figure this out, but it is very complicated, the Buu thing, because it really makes no sense. There's no reason why Kid Buu should even exist if Skinny Buu is the evil Buu, so you could say that maybe Skinny Buu was the same power as Kid Buu, but I don't think so, because Kid Buu had his way with Fat Buu, and how can both Boos exist? It just doesn't make any sense. So that's the best I could do for now. Look forward to a video, probably not in the near future, but in the future for sure. I do plan on doing it. Eddie XG. Question: if Hell is mentioned or shown in Dragon Ball Super, which I think it will be, do you think they will use the Hell from Z or Fakata no F? Thanks for answering. Now, those of you who are listening to this and are a little bit confused, you've got to go back a couple of Q&As, because Hell in Dragon Ball Z, the anime, is different. It's the Toei filler version of Hell versus the Fakata no F version of Hell, which we had never seen in the manga until Fakata no F. That's what he's talking about. So Hell was talked about in the manga, but we never see it, whereas in the anime we do see it. And I think they could probably combine them both. I mean, you have to do some creative writing, but you could probably combine them both. However, if I were a betting man, I would say that it's going to be the Hell from Revival of F. Even though that might complicate things, the whole thing's a mess. But I would say it's probably that one, even though they're not that different. Neslove123, what do you think of the casting of Jon Bernthal as the Punisher for Daredevil Season 2? I like it. I like him as Shane on The Walking Dead. My only thing is I really, really like Thomas Jane, and I really hoped he would have come back as the Punisher, because he's my favorite Punisher. I love Dolph Lundgren, but Thomas Jane is awesome. I remember they actually filmed that movie here in Tampa, the Punisher film, and I remember they did a casting call, and I actually wanted to try out for it, but I never did. Too much of a chicken shit, but no, but Jon Bernthal is, he'll be fine. I'm very excited for that too, by the way. I'm very excited to see what the Punisher's going to do now. Jess does Rob Blocks. 1. Do you think that when Goku turned into a Super Saiyan God that he jumped up to another level like Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan? Do you think he will grow stronger into an SSJG, SSJ2? I guess you're asking if he's going to get a new form. He could, but I hope not. Personally, I think they got to ease up with the new forms. It's like turning into a movie now, like I said before. They really have to ease up on it. But I do think that if he continues to train in the SS God SS form, that he can definitely get stronger in that form. I just don't really see what the purpose would be to add another form. I mean, the meta purpose would be because they want to sell more, more toys, and they want us all to buy more toys. But in universe, as a storyteller, again, I've said this before, the new forms are kind of turning into a crutch. They got to ease up on that and kind of go back to basics, like with Dragon Ball, where the characters learn new techniques and new ways to win a fight. That's not just a new form. So I think it should. I think they should ease up on it. But I mean, who knows? Up to Toriyama. Justin Moore, you should do this in a Q&A video. Do you think Goku can move at light speed? Because almost every single DBZ fan I've met online and on the internet says this, but I have never in my life seen Goku do anything close to that, nor have I seen that the creators even said it. Now, big misconception here I want to clear up on this Q&A. There's a line that Raditz says where he's faster than light. That is a dub-only line. And if you've been subbing to my channel, you know how much I hate those. Never said in the Japanese version, therefore it never happened. However, how fast can these guys move? I would say pretty damn fast. Gotenks, if I remember correctly, Gotenks actually, the fastest feat I can think of as far as speed is Gotenks being able to circle around the world. I think it was like in 6 seconds 9 times, or 5 seconds in 20 minutes, something like that, and then he took a nap. That was pretty awesome. I think that's pretty damn fast. I would say that is faster than light. However, you're not asking about Gotenks, you're asking about Goku. And the answer is with Shunkan Ito, with instantaneous movement, yes, Goku is faster than light. Because the thing about instantaneous movement is that it's exactly what it says. instantaneous. He can go from Earth to Kai Planet to the other world in a second. And these are worlds that exist very far away. So, yeah, that's pretty much very faster than light. But we're talking about just Goku. The other characters is tough. He doesn't always use that technique in battle either, because it's all about focusing your ki. Sometimes you can't do that because you're fighting. Also, another point is that they now again, we don't know for sure, but it is implied if you do the research that planet Namek is actually on the Eastern Galaxy. So only because Eastern Kai is the one who met with them. That's where the implication that Namek is there is what it's implied. Plus, Kaio said he couldn't sense it, so that tells me that that's, at least not right away, that tells me that that's where it's at. Just, it would make sense, but there's no actual book that says this or any information that would validate that. But Goku can travel from there to Kai's planet because he had to go there to get Dende. So, again, another example of Goku being very, very fast. Plus, they actually flew to Namek, and I think it was 6 days in Goku's ship. So, that's pretty damn fast. And that's the thing. If you're in one galaxy, if you can travel galactic distances like that within like 6 days, that's faster than light. So, if ships can do it, I assume the characters can do it too. But again, there is no actual guidebook or no information at all that would tell us that would help us gauge the speed, but I would just say pretty damn fast. And I also find it hard to believe that by the end of the series, when these characters are superly, overpowered in many ways, I don't know how they could just not, how they couldn't do it. It just seems that would make sense. Victor Malvar Rael. For the next Q&A, I have a question. Say Bra and Goten or Trunks and Pan had a kid. Wait a minute, let me read that back. Bra and Goten or Trunks and Pan. I see. So you're talking about mixing the bloodline of Vegeta and Goku. Yeah, would they have more potential than Gohan, seeing how it'd have genes from Goku and Vegeta's bloodline? The thing about the genes thing is slightly, and I say slightly because we don't have enough information in the manga or in the anime to validate this, it's slightly retconned because early on in Dragon Ball Z specifically, when Gohan is actually alive, after the Dragon Ball storyline, it's heavily implied, not just from the feats that Gohan accomplishes, but also from what Vegeta and Nappa say, that when you interbreed the Saiyajin with the Chikyujin, which is the Saiyans and the Earthlings, your offspring has the potential to unlock higher levels of power at a younger age. But the way that I always saw it was that as they grow older, the pure-blooded ones tend to get the bigger boost, which is why Goku and Vegeta surpass their children. But then I also wonder, what if Gohan had continued to train? What if Goten and Trunks continued to train after Z? Hard training. I'm talking hard training. Would they have unlocked these higher forms at a younger age? Gohan definitely did it. Goten and Trunks definitely did it. And now we're talking about grandchildren, so there's a possibility that maybe the gene can get passed down. I don't believe, and I did a Talk Dragon Ball with Super Jane about this. I forget which one. I think it was the one about Pan being an SSJ. I don't believe that the thinner the bloodline gets with the human interaction, the less the chance there are of them doing SSJ. But there's no evidence to back this up. I mean, Goku Jr. and GT and Vegeta Jr. are 16th generations after Goku and Vegeta, and yet, or 1/16th bloodline, whatever. They're not 16 generations. Goku, Gohan, Pan's kid, and then Goku Jr. So they're about 4 generations below Goku, and they can still do it. So to me, I don't think that the gene would really get affected. Maybe they can still go SSJ, but the problem is that we just don't have enough evidence. We just don't know. But the idea that Vegeta and Goku's bloodline can mix and create a super powerful warrior, that's a great idea. That's an idea that should be explored in a video game, hopefully supervised by Toriyama to make sure everything's right. That would be a fantastic little idea to do that. And hypothetically speaking, if you go by the early Dragon Ball Z, when this was actually a thing when it comes to Gohan, yes, the kid would have more potential just because you're mixing the two bloodlines together. Vegeta's a super elite. Goku is not, however. Goku managed to use effective training methods to make himself more powerful to the point where even Beerus and Whis are impressed, even though from the stuff that we've seen so far, they can't touch Beerus and Whis still. So in theory, your question makes sense. Last question today from Jamar Grove, Q&A. Are you into RPG games? If so, what ones are your favorite? There's a second question, but I'm going to answer this one first. I'm actually a huge RPG fan. The newer ones like Mass Effect, I do enjoy those games, don't get me wrong. But personally, I've always been a fan of the old school JRPGs from the Nintendo, Super Nintendo era. I'm just old school, yo. I just love those games. And funny that you mentioned this in a Dragon Ball Q&A or Dragon Ball channel, because I do love, my favorite RPG series is Dragon Quest. Not just because Toriyama did the art, but because it is literally the first ever modern JRPG that really put food on the plate for everybody else to eat. So that's my favorite series. I love the old Final Fantasies. I love all of them with the exception of the ones after 12. I don't like 12. 13 was trash. 11 and 14 I don't really count. 10 was okay. 8 was okay. I love 7. I love 9. I love 6. I love 5. I love 4. My favorites are 4, 5, and 6. I love those RPGs. I have talked to our boy the Anvil. Shout outs to the Anvil here. Anvil 555 about RPG games, and there's just so many. I love Breath of Fire, I love Legend of Legai, I love Legend of Dragoon. I just love JRPGs. Star Ocean, and of course Xenogears is one of the most underrated ones. I love those RPGs. I have not played a modern RPG in maybe, years. Dragon Quest 9 might have been the last one I touched. Dragon Quest 8 was the last one I actually finished. I never got to finish 9. But some of the new next-gen systems haven't really done that many RPGs. But I've been going back and discovering new treasures and back in the day. And I just love those games. So hopefully that answered your questions. But of course, there are modern RPGs. I like how nowadays these different games have kind of taken RPG elements. Like for example, Borderlands, or another example is Xenoverse. You've got the RPG elements. I really like that. So big fan of that. I just haven't played too many of them, but I have played some. And my second question is, if you could create 2 new DBZ characters, who would they be? Keep up the good work / videos. Beerus and Whis are pretty damn perfect, but if you're asking me to just make up 2 characters out of thin air, that's tough. Let me think here. I mean, I would have to kind of delve into like some fan fiction, but I would totally, and this is going to sound really trippy, but I would totally love it if a female surviving alien appeared and revealed herself to be Vegeta's ex-wife, and they had a son. I know it sounds trippy, but that would be awesome. The interactions with her and Bulma, the interactions between Vegeta's other son from years ago and Trunks, I mean, that would just be such soap opera. And it also gives them a new way to create new comedy. That's a different kind of comedy they haven't really done in Dragon Ball. That would be so fantastic. And that could be like a sitcom, Vegeta having to deal with it. That would be great. I mean, I guess that counts as 2 new DBZ characters, because you can always create new Majins, new Nameks, and more surviving Saiyajins other than Vegeta or Tarble, and Broly. So any of that could work. I'm just having some trouble. Well, you know what I would do, bro? Honestly, I would take Toriyama's Makaio Shin idea and just do it, bro. Just do it. What I should have said was I would make Beerus fat and Whis into a girl, and I feel dumb for not answering that and just getting the question done with, but you probably would have been pissed at me for not giving you a real answer, but that's a good answer. I would take the Makaio Shin idea that Toriyama thought up about the evil Kais and probably make that into 2 new characters that are going to be some trouble for Goku because they have abilities that other characters don't. I mean, that could work. Just throwing it off my head there. Again, I don't have time to really think that through. But that's one thing that I would certainly think of. Anyways, that's it for Geekdom Q&A. 25 minutes of goodness here. Of course, check out the Ask.fm. I'll be answering questions on there from now on, making a video out of it. So I hope you enjoyed it. And leave your comments below, anything I've answered or anything you want to talk to me about. And I will catch you down the road. As always, have a blessed day. Take care of yourself and each other.